This is Teresa Davis, your host of the Grief Mentor podcast. Welcome to Season 2, where together we will journey through the hardships that grief thrust upon us while holding on to the anchor that is trustworthy and true. Here you will find interviews and biblical truths that speak healing into the mind, body, and spirit of the brokenhearted. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back to the podcast, guys. This is your host, Teresa Davis. I have a question for you today. How do you view your grief and your loss? The way we respond to grief and loss is very individualized, and there are many things that can affect that. Our culture, your gender, your spirituality, the relationship that you had with the person that you lost, the stage of life that you're in right now, how they died, many factors affect the way we view our grief and loss. The American culture says we've got 6 months to a year to grieve. I've read some recent data that suggests 18 months to 2 years for sudden death. That's hogwash to me, guys. As long as we love, we will grieve. Here in the States, it's fast-paced, and there isn't time to grieve. We're pushed from the moment the news comes to get past our grief. It's time to move on, time to get back to living our life. Really, by whose expectations? We feel this constant pressure to be the person we used to be. Where's the friend I used to have? Or if you've experienced child loss, one of your living children might say, I want my mom back. I want my dad back. I want things to be the way they used to be. I get it. The pressure is definitely there, but no one gets to define your grief. Your grief is your grief, and we get to choose how we manage our grief, and each of us have unique circumstances. Now, with that said, I want every single person to listen and hear what I'm about to say. Grief is a process. It's managed at your own pace and in your own way. Hands down, I believe this is true for all of us. If you and I were to sit down at your favorite coffee shop and share our grief, there would be many common threads, but there will also be many differences. Therefore, I could not possibly create a scenario where grief would fit for all persons into a little box all tied up with a ribbon and a bow that says, here, put your grief in here. It does not work that way. It simply does not work that way. So please don't misinterpret what I'm going to focus on now. You have the space to grieve. I'm not removing that space based on what I'm getting ready to share with you. So I will ask you again, how do you view your grief and loss? Now, how you answer that question determines how you grieve. Now, I'm going to give you an example, and I want you to picture with me a triangle, okay? I don't even know if I can make a triangle with my hands here for those of you watching on YouTube. I want you to picture a triangle, and at the top of that triangle, I want you to see the word thoughts. And then I want you to follow the triangle down to the next point. And I want you to see the word feelings. And then I want you to follow the triangle along to the other point, and I want you to see the word actions, or what you do. Now, as I say the next sentence, I want you to follow along and see the words on the triangle as I mention them. So remember, thoughts are at the top, follow down, feelings are at the next point are your actions, or what you do. The way you think affects the way you feel. The way you feel affects what you do. What you do affects the way you think. For example, if you think there is no way forward in your grief, then you will feel that there's no way forward in your grief. If you feel that there's no way forward in your grief, then you will act as if there is no way forward in your grief. And if you act as if there's no way forward in your grief, then you will think that there is no way forward in your grief. Guys, if we don't learn how to break that cycle, we're going to get stuck and we're going to stay there. And it's going to repeat itself over and over and over again. Time does nothing to help us move forward in our grief journeys. Sitting with your grief is appropriate for a time, guys, because if we can't sit with our grief, we've got to be able to feel the pain. In order to be able to feel the pain, we have to allow it to come to the surface. It's just that simple. Pain that is not acknowledged festers like a splinter deep, deep in our soul. And eventually it will come to the surface in some way, shape, form, or fashion. My question to you today is, are you grieving in a healthy, productive way? Or are you stuffing it? Relying on substances? Using promiscuous behavior to comfort yourself? Are you excessively shopping, buying, and spending money on things, all to distract yourself from feeling the pain? How do you know if you're grieving in a healthy way? Well, what's your personal life look like? How's your anxiety? How's your relationships? Are you able to function in the everyday setting, honoring yourself and your needs while honoring your loved one as well? Only you can answer these questions. After listening to this podcast today, it would benefit you to sit down and draw out a triangle. And at the top point, write the word thoughts. Then ask yourself, how's your thought life? Is it healthy? Or is it destroying you from the inside out? On the next point, put feelings. How's your emotions? Are they healthy? Do your emotions allow you to grieve in a healthy way? Or is your anxiety taking over your life and creating havoc in its wake? At the next point, I want you to label actions. What are your actions telling you? Are the people closest to you your safe people? Are they raising a red flag? Are they telling you things like, please get some help because I love you and we can't continue to live like this? Grief is hard, guys. I get it. But there is a way forward. There is a way to manage grief in a healthy way, but you have to do something to break the cycle. Well, how do you do that? Well, you find a grief share group, okay? Get out of your comfort zone. Yeah, I know it might be hard, but the alternative, guys, is losing years of your life and maybe destroying relationships along the way. Get some help. Go see a counselor. I'll put some links in the show notes for you. But see a counselor. See somebody that can help you manage your thoughts and your anxiety. If you struggle with substance abuse, or if you've developed a dependency on some kind of substances while you've been grieving to help you manage your grief, then visit a Celebrate Recovery group. I'll put those links in the show notes. I did an episode with Tom Gilbert on complicated grief. If you haven't listened to that episode and you think you might benefit from his perspective, and let me tell you, he is a wonderful communicator. He loves people and he wants to help because guess what? He has walked the substance abuse road himself. He is a degreed psychologist. It's worth your time to go back and catch that episode. Guys, I've dedicated my life to helping those who grieve. When Andrew died, I was devastated and I did not see a way forward. And it hasn't been easy for me. And I know that it hasn't been easy for you either, but only you can choose how to manage your grief. Only you can weigh the cost of what unmanaged grief is doing to your life. Thank you for listening. And it is my great honor that you have invited me into your grief journey. And that's all I have for you today, guys. So until next time, take care. If you enjoyed today's show, hit the follow button and scroll down the podcast page until you see the 5 stars and leave a review. Thank you for your support, as this will help the podcast reach those in need. If you would like to submit a question to have answered on the air, message me on social media or email me at the address found in the show notes.